And today we're going to be training the bees to the feeder. First, what you want to do is have the feeder set up. In this glass bottle, we'll have a 2.5 sugar solution on top of this plate, which has grooves to allow the sugar solution to flow out. On top of this feeder, we will have a filter paper on which we have put 8 microliters of anise scent to attract the bees. On the bottom of the feeder, we'll have a colored piece of paper to allow the bees to identify the feeder. As the bees feed at the feeder, we have to mark each bee with this paint pen on the thorax lightly. In order to train the bees, we move slightly, a few centimeters, the feeder away from the nest. We need to make sure that the bees are still going back and forth from the feeder to the nest and that all the bees are still marked. Now you can see that we moved the feeder further to the edge of the platform. Once you have the bees trained to the feeder, you can place the feeder on top of the tripod. Be very careful so that the sugar solution doesn't spill. Once you've done that, you can move the tripod away, making sure the bees follow it. Once you have moved the feeder, still make sure that you are still marking all the bees. Also, record the number of bees that are visiting the feeder. Everything you need is found in their backpack kit, including this spray bottle, which you can use to clean yourself if you spill sugar solution. Our goal is to train the bees to 100 meters, so we will move the feeder that way. Remember to continue marking each bee as they visit the feeder. And continue recording the number of bees that visit the feeder. So far, we've been following a fairly straight trail. The bees find it easy to follow, but once you get to a corner or dense vegetation, you'll have to start taking smaller steps between the points that you stop at. This is an example of where it might be harder to train the bees, so you might want to take smaller steps so that bees find it easier to follow. And now we are closing into our final location, which in this case is a water tower, so we can test if bees can communicate height. One of the feeders are at the base of the tower, and one of the feeders are at the top. If we're training the feeder to the base of the tower, this is where we would stop.